So hello everyone, we are sketching this today. So this is a lovely tower in Sighisoara, which is in Romania, which is where I had the fortune to be on holiday quite recently. We're doing a really loose feel. So this is watercolour first, then ink, then a little bit more colour. No pencil, no sketching, just direct watercolour and keeping it fun and light and airy. So if you like this, let me know, leave a comment, tell me your thoughts. And let's get sketching. So let's start with a bit of sketching. So what I'm actually going to do first is wet my page. I've just got a little spray bottle here. And what we're going to do is a little light spray so that we can get everything with this nice sort of glossy coat on there. The aim of this is to produce some really lovely loose colours on the page, which we can then pull together with our pens after. So I'm going to start with quite a big brush. I'm not going to sketch at all. So this is direct watercolours. So that just basically means we're directly going straight for the watercolours, popping them on the page, and then we'll worry about pulling it together in a little bit. I'm going to start with some quinacridone sienna. And what we're doing is we're using our brush almost just as if we were doing a little pencil outline. So we can still get our shapes, right? Just because we're going straight for the watercolour doesn't mean we can't get our shapes. So we can get this sort of blocky tower in, and we can, whilst we're doing that, just vary our wash a little bit. So that was quinacridone sienna, and here's a bit of quinacridone. And I know that this tower is not a nice bright gold like this, but we're having a play, we're having a bit of fun with the colours that we're using. And that's okay, and that's the sort of expressivity that you can have fun with watercolours. Gonna just take a little bit of moon glow as well, and we will get some of that sort of depth into our tower there. And because we're nice and wet, these colours will just move themselves about. So we don't need to do much more than that, and then let them do their own thing. We can just add in the top of that tower just very loosely there, but we'll come back and do that again in the smaller brush. We've got this side bit here. Going to be leaving a few bits of, well, quite a lot of white on the page today. And the aim of that is to let us be flexible. So this little white gap here lets us be flexible, lets us get in the shapes, but without having been too fluid. You see how much everything's moving? If I join these together, our shapes will get lost. They'll join together totally, rather than just the amount that we want. Now I'm going to come in and get these sort of roofs now, these overhanging eaves of the roof. And again, we're just using it like a sketch, like a pen. So there's nothing clever about what we're doing. We can get a bit of, this time I'm going to use some Hansa yellow, Hansa medium yellow, to get in this lovely house, just to give it a different tone compared to the quinacridones that we've used. And one way of making it feel fluid is we don't need to bring that all the way to the bottom, certainly not yet. We can mix, maybe dull that yellow down a bit to create some difference between the other house. And you see, if we just push our colours around, we can create this clear sort of break between the colours. Now the last house is quite sort of white, so instead of trying to paint it white, we'll leave the page white and we'll just add in some sort of signs of muckiness on the page. Now I'm just going to clean my brush at the side, and we can just soften a few bits. We can introduce some white. So if we want to find, for example, some of these gaps, if we want to make a little line of white ready to introduce some dark to later, this is our opportunity to do all those things. Equally, we can blend and merge things together. Now we've got these kind of lovely overlapping greens here as well. So I'm going to use my normal greens, Cascade green. And we're just going to do the same thing. So we just bring these greens in to the edge of the frame, just nice and loosely. And we can even do a bit of sort of flicking if we want. Oh, flicking the wrong way there, probably covered my wall. And just start to introduce these very loose shapes just coming round. And then we've got this kind of open area in front of us. want just a little bit of something there, don't we? So just a neutral kind of tone. You get quite an effective neutral basically by mixing up whatever's in your palette. And then you can do these shapes pushing in, these kind of, again, if we were sketching, we'd draw these lines which might be in some way mimicking perspective. So you draw lines getting bigger. We can do the same with our just big shapes with our watercolour brush. Going to change brush now. Going to go from that was a 1-inch flat right the way down to a size 6 round brush. I'm just going to do a bit more softening, moving things around, and then come in with some nice dark colours. So I've been using Moonglow, so Moonglow can remain our dark colour, and we could just get a few more ideas of dark lines going on. Remember, we're going to be doing some ink later, so we don't need a huge amount of detail here, just the idea. Now this tower at the top, it's sort of speckled and grey, isn't it? I'm going to use a bit of that quinacridone, but also with a little bit of our Moonglow, and we're just going to get a really loose suggestion of some shapes going up here, and leave a lot to the imagination at the moment. Same here, we've got this clock and a window, just really loose ideas. We can start providing a little bit of structure if we want, but don't overdo things, and I'm probably even here at risk of overdoing things. It's kind of like an I've started so I've finished kind of thing there, so I probably regret the level of dark I've added there, but no worries, because it's so wet we can come in, we can soften, move, blend, and we can save ourselves from ourselves. I do want something in the sky, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to mix up a little patch of blue up here. Okay, and then I'm actually going to go back to my flat brush, and we're just going to bring that in. We can add a bit more of an intense touch in a couple of places. And again, look, we're leaving this white gap. So leaving a nice gap between our structure and the sky. Something to the imagination, something that shows as well the process. And showing the process of your sketch is often quite fun. So it shows how we've built up the sketch. Okay, and then again, just push some of that colour around, get some of that dreamy quality by introducing some water and just creating some lovely changes in the texture of the colour. And there we go. So I appreciate that at the moment it looks a bit manic, it looks a bit loose, but that's kind of the point. We want a really loose image which we can build structure on with our pen. So I'm just going to let that dry, and then we'll come back to it. So here we are, drying. We can test that just by seeing if anything moves at all. And there will be wet areas at the edges where the blebs of water are, but no worries, we've got the most of it dry. So I'm going to now come in with some water soluble ink. So this is ink which we can move with our water. And the key here is to not overdo it. So we just want suggestions again, nothing too much, nothing that overpowers our image. And I'm going to come in, I'm going to use the normal side. I often use it upside down. This is the normal size of our fountain pen. And the reason for that is I want more ink on the page because I want to be able to move it. I want to be able to create some sort of tone and shadow. And we are using these colours, these shapes we've created. We're also using our eye, we're looking at the reference, but we're also deciding beyond that what the image needs. And you see, like, I can extend way past, I can come under, so if we come under our colours, we get this lovely spilling over effect. And we just create these kind of hard lines, and that's where the pen is brilliant. And you do this in watercolour painting. You come in with a small brush and then you add your hardest lines at the end. It's just kind of a shortcut to a proper quote-unquote proper watercolour sketch using a pen. And you see we can just create these little shapes very easily. No need to count how many things there are, we just do it by feel, unless you want to, of course. And then we build in our roofs here. And again, we can leave bits of white above, below. All these things add a lovely effect. And again, no need to finish all of these houses off. These are the sort of just additions on the side to this incredible, interesting tower. So we can do as much as we want, but we also don't have to. These lovely flags I am going to do because they provide something really interesting for me. And we could do a window or two off the side here. There is a window or two off the side here. And that's quite a nice little compositional element, I think. And then just providing an edge, I think here is quite useful. It separates our main and our sort of less main areas. And then a couple of these features in the tower. At the moment the tower is very, what's the word? Very simple, which is fine, but let's just create a little bit more dynamism in there, particularly with things like the archway. And remember, keep things nice and loose. We also got a sort of little truck here, which I can tell you serves langos. You can't see that, but it does serve langos, which are very tasty, very, very unhealthy. And here we go. So just, again, choosing what details to add, choosing what details to leave. And then we're into this greenery, and let's provide our greenery a little bit of structure. You can see how the trees come in, so we can simulate them. We can also add things like we've got this little tree in the background, which is a lovely shape. We can just add those lines to bring that in. And we can invent something like a fence. Well, actually, it's not even inventing it, but you can make more of the fence than there is in the reference, just to make things feel complete. No need to finish off the bottoms here, but we can finish off the bottoms if we want. Just being flexible and doing what you feel. And let's add a few people in, just little simple shapes, because there are people all over this image, aren't there? We can, because we haven't finished off the bottom as well, that is, as ever, just making things flexible. It means suddenly we can add people right in our foreground without them really overlapping or appearing messy in the image. Let's add this chap. He's got a hoodie, little bag on. Just really simple shapes, but creates more busyness. There's more going on. And then what do we do next? Well, we take our little brush. So this is again the size 6. Just going to check that for you. Is it size 6 or is it size 4? It is size 6 round brush, yeah. Take that little bit of water, not too much. And now we can move this ink around a bit, and suddenly where we've got ink, we've got tone and shape. So keep white, remember, keep some of that light area, but you can use all this ink now to, again, just create a bit more interest, bit more texture. So where you've got these dark clocks and things, and where these areas are actually in shadow, just like that, they're now in shadow. Under the eaves, lovely place to provide shadow. We've already done it a bit with our moon glow here, this is why I was saying don't overdo the dark, because like here I overdid the dark, but I can actually create effective dark with my ink very easily. And we just use that to provide a bit of shape, a bit of interest all around. You can use the ink as well just to create some more little things going on. Okay, and how are we doing? So step back, have a look, and then if you think you can do more, or it needs more, or you want more, then come back. But careful not to overdo it. Remember, this ink, when it's moved, although it's water soluble, when it's moved, it's like watercolour. It's pretty much there for good. And it's very easy to take a lovely scene like this and overdo things. Now I'm going to do a couple of extra bits of colour now as well. So we got these flags which are really interesting, and what we can do is we can fill them with some colour. We can add another layer. So we've got this wishy-washy loose colour, but then we can add on top of that some nice bold colours. So just trying to get some red here, getting confused between my red and orange. And now we've got these flags which are sort of standing proud as well. We could do bits of colour in the tower, but I'd caution you against doing too much, again, because we don't want to take away from that sort of wishy-washy loose feel. But a few bits, just touches here and there. Same in our buildings up here. And then the other bit which I think can really take a lot more colour is in our greenery. So we can come in, we can use these dark marks we've made, and we can use some thick pigment, we can add a bit of different green, so this is gold green, and we can just create different shapes. Come in with a clean brush and you can soften things up, and we can start moving that ink around inside our pigment. A few little twigs and things here, and all you're doing is sort of dancing your brush, creating different shapes, squashing your brush, changing that green a couple of times, even coming in with some real dark stuff. So let's get some moon glow and create some other dark shapes, and then of course coming back in and doing a bit of softening. And what can be nice is just to get that tonal sort of balance or contrast. So come up to this house and get that feel that there's a sudden shift. So you've got the house and then there's a big shift to this dark greenery. And of course, greenery always looks lovely with a few little gentle splashes. That was probably a bit watery. The more watery your brush, the bigger the splashes are going to be. So just change the amount of water if the splashes are too big or too small. The other thing which can work really nicely in foregrounds is also a bit of splashing, because at the moment it's quite plain. We've got the people, we're going to do a little bit of colour into them as well, but just adding a bit of interest by having some colour splashed in can be quite nice. Okay, so our people, we've got a couple of choices. So we could keep them as tonal people. So if we do that, we just take our brush and we can fill them. So now we've got these people and they are standing out because we've got them tonally different from the background. We could also add some colour, so I'm going to do that for you, and then you can decide what you prefer. So we can use just colours we've already been using. So quinacridone, bolder colours for the people in the front. So this is quinacridone gold. Then as we go back, perhaps we use a little bit of quinacridone sienna, because it's a bit less sort of punchy, it's a bit more towards a brown rather than a bright yellow. So it's a really simple way. You can start mixing other colours. We could put a little bit of cobalt in to provide different sort of legs or the idea of a shadow. And whilst we're on shadows, of course, you can just pull that shadow across and suddenly you've got people grounded as well. You can create little shadows under our flags as well. But before you know it, you'll overdo things, or at least I'll overdo things. So I think what I'm going to do is end there. So that's a really quick, just a 20-minute sketch, really using sort of minimalist feel, a few different techniques, soluble ink, loose watercolours, and basically having a lot of fun. And just another nice way that you can experiment with sketching on plein air, in the studio, or however you like to do it. So let me know if you like this, and of course if you do enjoy my channel, please do like, subscribe. I'm also currently producing a full sketching class in my website, so have a look out for that. I'll obviously do a couple of little videos when it's out, but we'll cover all these kind of techniques and things in more detail. So thank you very much for watching, and have a good rest of your day.